Welcome to Superconnections. I am your host, Jennifer K. Hill, helping you with the golden triangle of connection, where you will superconnect to yourself, others, and your purpose. Join me each week as I will share from some of my favorite tips and tools for superconnecting, and I'll bring in some of my favorite friends and thought leaders to help support you on your journey to superconnecting to the life of your dreams. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Superconnections. I am Jennifer K. Hill, your host, and I am so grateful to give you bite-sized pieces of wisdom on how you can superconnect to yourself, others, and your purpose. And today we have a special episode, episode number 10, with a dear, dear friend, soul sister, Susanne Goldstein, who has a beautiful new website that I encourage you all to go check out, SuzanneGoldstein.com, that we'll go ahead and put that in the show notes for today. And she is not only a brilliant thought leader, she is also the consciousness and culture architect and creator of the energy operating system, which is super sizzly, and we'll talk about that a little bit today in the show, which is a system that helps people help themselves to upgrade you just like you upgrade your phone. We all get these operating system updates, but how many of us actually upgrade our own internal operating system? So this is why I wanted to have Susanne on today for Superconnection, so she can help teach us how can we use the habit framework and some of these other incredible frameworks that she's designed to help you go in and reprogram, recode, and upgrade your operating system. So Susanne, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer, and for that beautiful introduction. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, me too. So I know you began your career working in television. I know you and I were like sitting on your couch one day a couple months ago, and you were telling me about some of the films that you worked on with Disney and other things. And then you and I recently connected in the last year or so, I would say, and you've been helping women and men to empower themselves, and you just launched this new operating system today. Tell us, what should we know about how this energy operating system works and how we can tap into it to live our most full lives as super connected as possible?
I love this question. Thank you so much. So, Energy OS is something I've been developing for over 30 years. And it is a series of codes, techniques, frameworks, things like that I've created originally to help myself go from being an extremely destitute, depressed person with complex PTSD and 2 attempts at suicide to being a person who is fully embodied, extremely happy, living in joy frequency most of the time. And the way I did it is by really understanding that our brain operates in neuroplasticity. It's not like we get to 26 and the brain cells start going away and we're like, okay, we're done. I can't keep growing. The growing that happens at certain ages is extraordinary. And so why not help it along? And so the way I came up with this system is that I've done a lot of study of consciousness. And what we understand in consciousness is 95% of our behaviors, check this out, 95% of our behaviors, the way we act with people, like someone drives and cuts you off in traffic, and you're like, damn it, hit the horn, whatever you do, right? Those things that are automatic responses to things are actually reactions. And they come from our unconscious mind. There's only 5% of who we be, 5% of our behaviors that actually are intentional, conscious choices. So most of us don't realize that we're living in a choiceless world. So when we make the unconscious conscious, we can start becoming choiceful about it. And so the question is, how do we do that? So in the energy operating system, the idea is this. When you have 95% of your behavior that's unconscious and 5% that's conscious, how do we transfer that? So I'll say to you, Jen, what's your phone number? And if I said that to you, you rattle off your phone number. And that's because your phone number is inside of what's called the preconscious layer of your brain. It is a layer that's like the waiting room for your brain. It's where you install stuff. Like, you know how you sometimes have to get a code sent to your phone so you can get into a website, and you can memorize those 6 numbers for about a second so you can get it into the website. And the next thing is that number is gone. You actually didn't store it directly and for a long time in your preconscious mind. So what I do with people is I have more than 50 of these codes and tools that when it's appropriate, I introduce them to one of these codes and I teach them how to use it. And over time, they get to integrate that tool into their life so much that it becomes part of their new behavioral pattern. And depending on which code it is and what you're working on, I have just gobs of them. And it's so fun to watch because some of them have physicalizations to them. Like I have one called the Beyonce technique, where it's about thoughts and things that belong in your current now, what I call the vestibule of now, another code, versus in the hallway of your past. And when something from the hallway of your past comes into your vestibule of now, the Beyonce technique is to the left, to the left. And you send that code, you send that thought back to the hallway of your past, which is to the left, right? I have all these different ways of helping people. And it's just been so much fun to pull it all together and to really make it into this entire system.
Yeah, and that's what the show is all about is I get asked all the time. People say, "How do I connect more deeply to myself? How do I let go of those resentments and the people who betrayed me and the horrible things that happened?" And that's what it's all about is how do we actually shift our consciousness? How do we move out of replaying that same old past, that past behavior where you're dating your mother, your father, whoever it is over and over. You're like, this isn't what I want. I want my soulmate. Why are you showing me this same person? And why am I going for that person is the bigger question. And I love what you're saying,
Exactly.
to the left, to the left. When we have these little mnemonics and tools and upgrades that are available, most of us live our whole lives just at the effect of life. We are constantly reacting rather than responding, or better yet, proactively creating our lives and the lives we want. So I know you talked to me a little bit right before we hopped on the call here, Suzanne, about the habit framework. Let's talk about that. I'd love to hear from you a little bit about how that works. And you can find more details on Suzanne's website about this as well.
Habit framework is one of my favorites because so often we find ourselves in positions where our energetic frequency is not where we want it to be. And one of the questions I ask of people all the time is how frequently are you upgrading your frequency? You can wake up in the morning, you can be in a low, slow energy mood. And if, swear to God, if like your favorite celebrity or someone you loved walked through the door unexpectedly, your frequency would elevate instantaneously. But why do we have to have an external resource do that? What if we have all the tools inside us that we need to be able to elevate our own frequency anytime we want so we can be in that vibration and become an energetic match for the things that we desire in life? So the habit framework is used to literally change your emotional state, not your energetic frequency, but they're related. It's to change your emotional state. So say you just got an email from your boss and it was nasty. And it was something about the meeting you're about to walk into and don't mention this or that, or do this or don't do that. Whatever it was, it tweaked you in some kind of way. And so you're walking into this meeting and you're like, how do I get out of this really bad mood that I'm in because of this email that just came in and activated me in a negative way? So the habit framework is a 5-step process that that take you through. So the H is honor how your brain works. When we are activated in a negative way, we either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We still have an amygdala, the lizard brain that we have. And when we're in situations that feel like high pressure, we often mix up what's a survival pressure versus what's a perceived pressure. So my boss is mad at me. Suddenly it's a survival problem. Is he going to fire me? Am I going to get in trouble? Whatever the thing is, we go into that amygdala fight, flight, freeze, or fawn automatically. So you got to honor how your brain works. If you're a bird, you're going to fly out of that situation as soon as possible. You won't even go to the next meeting, right? So we've got to honor ourselves. And the second thing you do is the A, which is ask if it's true. So in the case of getting the email, this is based on the work of Byron Katie, this particular letter, is ask if it's true. If you had to go into a court of law and prove that your boss was about to fire you, could you stand in front of a jury and say, my boss is going to fire me and I can prove it? And unless you can actually prove it, it's not a fact. And if it's not a fact, it's a feeling. And the thing about feelings is we can do something about them. So the B in the habit framework is become choiceful. Start to realize I can choose my emotions. Most people have the emotion and they say, this is who I am. When we're conscious human beings, we can actually choose our emotional state and then manifest that through working on our frequency. So once you become choiceful, meaning I now know it's a feeling, not a fact, I know I can change my feelings. Now the I is imagine a better thought. So that I got the email. I had the thought my boss is going to fire me. I'm going to honor how my brain works. I'm going to ask if it's true. I'm going to discover that it's a feeling, not a fact. I'm going to be choiceful, become choiceful. I'm going to imagine a better thought. What if my better thought is my boss was just in a really rushed time this morning, didn't have, maybe the kid did this, that, or this, the dog ran out, or whatever it is. Maybe my boss was just in a bad place. And instead of me interpreting this as doomsday, which is what we do when we're unsure, what if the better thought here is he just wanted to share that information quickly before we ran into the meeting? And so now the T is trade your bad emotion for a better emotion. So if I was scared and feeling under it because I took this 2-line thing in the email that my boss is now going to fire me, what if I actually walk into that meeting with empathy? Because my boss maybe was just in a mood or something happened to him or her. And I'm now walking in the room differently. I'm in a different energy. I'm in a different emotional state. I'm at a different frequency. And now I can walk into the meeting and I can be open-minded as opposed to terrified. And that's the habit framework. And when you first start learning it, it might take a while to get it to work because you got to be able to go through all of those 5 stages quickly. But my clients, my people who know the habit framework now, literally, you could be walking down the hall to the meeting and you're like, got it, let's walk in. And so that's my hope with all of the installation of these tools. And if I may, I'd love to say one more thing about this. So the way I teach people how to do this, because look, I can only teach you. I can't do it for you. So the way I explain it is this. You, Jen, are a potted plant. Okay? And when I share something like the habit framework with you, or even Energy OS as a system to rewire your neural pathways in your brain, when I give you that, it's information. Information is just like me watering a plant. I am giving the plant something it needs. But once I give the plant the water it needs, I walk away. Your job as the plant is to allow that water to seep through the soil. Hopefully I gave you the right amount. It's not running through. Hopefully you've been fed recently, so it doesn't don't even touch the soil, but it actually goes through the soil in a beautiful way. That's you transforming yourself with the information that I shared. So I give you the information. You allow it to seep through the soil. That's the transformation process. That's when I say, I can't make you change. Only you can make you do that. Right? When the soil is nice and saturated and it gets to the roots somehow magically, take that water and turn it into shoots and stems and leaves and eventually, in some cases, flowers. That's the integration process. You took the thing I helped you install in your preconscious mind, you allowed it to transform you through the soil. It hit the roots and you integrated it and made all this beauty. And that's how I teach transformation. And so the habit framework is just one of those pieces of information that I help guide people through how to do this.
I remember you and I were talking about this while we sat on your couch that night I arrived in LA a couple months ago. And one of the things I just admire so deeply about you, Susanne, is your ability to tell a story. And we were talking about how gifted you are because many of you may be listening right now. You might be watching this whenever and wherever you're listening or watching. And so often, and I'm capable or culpable, I guess, of this as well. I love to share data. Like if you've listened to any of the solo podcasts, I might give you data or tools, and people say it's like drinking out of a fire hose sometimes because I just have vast amounts of data that I want to get across. And what I love that you just did so beautifully, Susanne, with what you just shared, is that you painted a visual image. And this is where some of the best orators of our time and the most impactful teachers, they share stories that help us to shift our operating system just by visualizing that story, just by reimagining that story. And I think what you're touching on here is so powerful. As you were sharing, Susanne, I could literally think, I can't wait for this episode to come out, of the 100 people that I want to share this with who have had those exact opportunities for growth, because that's all they are. And The universe, the way it works, you'll often hear me say the universe, God, source. I use it all interchangeably. For me, it's just whatever you consider your one source, whatever that looks like. Science might be your source. That's okay. Whatever that looks like. However, the way that life is structured is to help us to grow just like the plant. And we have a choice. I was just talking to somebody about this weekend in New York. The choice is, do we grow when the universe comes and goes, "Hi, Suzanne. I need to tell you something. The guy you're not dating is not good for you." And you're like, "No, you're wrong. He's great. He looks great on paper. He's handsome." By the way, this is not about Suzanne. This is about all of you listening and watching out there. And then a few more months go by and the red flags have tripled and quadrupled. And then the universe gives you like a little fist bump and says, no, I'm trying to tell you. And this physically happened to one of my best friends where she was dating a horrible guy for her. And she would literally get in car accidents on the way to his house, would be physically trying to be stopped, fell down the stairs in front of his house, like trying to get in. The universe was physically trying to stop her from seeing this guy who was mentally, physically, verbally, emotionally abusive.
Oh my gosh.
And took her having the courage. So I encourage you all, use this habit formula. Don't wait. When the moment life comes knocking and says, "I have a little message for you," answer that first knock. Don't wait for the little fist bump to your arm or the knockout blow that knocks you on your butt via whatever it might be, a financial emergency, a medical emergency. We're always being guided, and give yourself the information you need before you get there. Suzanne, before we wrap today, I mean, you gave us such juicy little tidbits in this short little episode that we've had together. Is there anything else you'd love to leave our audience with today?
So I teach through movies a lot, and I teach people how to watch movies differently. And because it dovetails so beautifully with what you were just talking about, I encourage everyone to go watch the movie The Adjustment Bureau, which is about where destiny and free will come together.
Mm.
So instead of just watching the movie for the story, I want you to watch it for its spiritual implications. And as you watch, you're going to start seeing these, what I call adjustment bureau moments. That's the knock that you just said. It's the universe adjusting your path, giving you the pivot point. And this movie explains it beautifully. So besides that, I just love that I got a chance to talk to you and share a little bit. And we're in the middle of a huge relaunch of my brand and my company. And I'm so excited to just spread this to as many people as we can so more people can love their lives.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. So it's Susanne Goldstein, Suzanne with two S's, Susanne, Goldstein as it sounds.com, right?
That's exactly
Well,
it.
and if there's anywhere else people want to go and connect with you, is that the best place? Or on social? Is there any particular social channel you recommend people connect?
You can go to my website and get all my social channels. I'm at Follow Suzanne everywhere. And again, Suzanne is Susanne. So just write Follow Suzanne, you'll find me.
Beautiful. For all of you, wherever and whenever you're watching, listening to this, my intention is always that maybe there was a spark of light, a spark of wisdom that Suzanne birthed in you. And may each one of these episodes, or wherever you go to deep dive into your information and wisdom, may it be fanned, may it grow into a flame that allows you to go out into the world and to see the sparks of light, not just in yourself, but to help foster that in one another, because that's what we're really doing. That's what super connecting is all about, is seeing the spark of light in yourself first and then helping to illuminate that light in everyone else. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for